Welcome to the first session of Starting Your Farm series on accessing resources. My name is Bo. My pronouns are he, him, and I am the beginning farmer specialist here at MOFGA, and I am also a farmer as well. Today, we're joined by Sylvie from Land for Good. She's the main field agent for Land for Good. And we're going to tackle a lot of the strategies and support programs available to you as a farmer interested in starting a farm here in Maine. First, there's a pre-work offering that's here on the asynchronous landing page on MOFGA's website called Your Ideal Farm. This is a worksheet that you can complete that helps you outline what your dreams and your goals are for your farm. And this is really where we're going to start about how we start our farm is from a place of using our values, the vision that we have for the life we want to create, and the goals for why we're engaged in agriculture to inform what you're doing in order to start your farm. I'm going to use my own farm, Dandy Ram Farm, as an example. We'll then go through the 8 forms of capital. Sylvie will talk about strategies and resources for finding land to farm. And then we'll do an overview of resources available to you as a beginning farmer here in Maine, specifically focusing on MOFGA's programs as well as Land for Good's programs. Again, the speakers are Sylvie from Land for Good and myself, Bo, from MOFGA in Dandy Ram Farm. First, we want to acknowledge our positions as farmers and service providers. Everything that we share today, advice that we give, strategies about how we support beginning farmers in Maine is informed by our experiences as farmers, as previous farm workers, and agriculture service providers who work every day to support farmers starting up in Maine. The barriers for beginning farmers often include accessing capital, resources, education, and land, and these are not experienced unanimously across the board for farmers. They really depend on our own experiences and our identities and how they play out in accessing these supports. So the barriers are definitely amplified for farmers of intersectional identities that have been marginalized, specifically farmers of color and queer farmers, especially in rural areas. Starting Your Farm is a series, so this is the first asynchronous recording of Starting Your Farm workshops, and there's 2 after this. So if you are wanting to start a farm project maybe this year or in the coming years, we strongly encourage you to check out the next 2 recordings. The second one is on selecting your enterprises, and the third is on planning for that first year in production. Throughout and also after the series, if you have lingering questions, we strongly encourage you as well to reach out to us. And this could be an email. This could be, a request to set up a time to talk. So Sylvie and I's work is really to meet with you one-on-one, oftentimes over Zoom, that first meeting, to talk through your specific situations and questions that would help you along the way. So step 1 in farming, I think oftentimes people jump straight to the seed catalog and the pretty pictures of plants and the gorgeous, like I know that every time I see like radicchio varieties, I'm like, oh, I should go become a radicchio farmer because it's so beautiful. But the first step in farming that we really encourage people to slow down and think about is like, what is your why? Farming is not an easy career path, both financially and starting up. It's very difficult, but also these are like long, sweaty days in a really unpredictable climate and really unpredictable markets. And what your why is probably going to be that thing that gets you through those really hard times. And it is also going to inform a lot of the decisions that you make on your farm. So, some subcategories or sub questions for this, like defining your why and really slowing down to think about like, why do you want to do this? Like, why do you want to start a farm? What's going to keep you going? Some of these questions you might have grappled with in the Ideal Farm pre-work worksheet, but this might be also like, how do you want to farm? Your why might be about environmental sustainability, and that directly correlates to your how in maybe using low tillage methods. What do you want to farm? thinking about, are you raising crops? Are you raising livestock, and getting more specific? And where do you want to farm? If you told me that your why about why you want to farm is because you want to be really quiet in a rural location, you're probably not going to end up farming in South Portland about your where. Um, so it is most important to connect with your why and defining these visions, defining your values. Honestly, sometimes before you do any of these, seed purchasing and getting the tools that you think that you might need. Um, so sometimes in business planning, MOFGA, we call this our holistic goal. Like what is the whole picture? What is our goal? And I have Dandy Ram Farm, which is a flower farm here in Monroe. And it didn't start as a flower farm. And that's what I'll say about my holistic goal is really to provide joy while in just and sustainable relationship with the land and its people. And all of the decisions that we make, what we do on our farm, how we grow, how our business evolves and changes is determined by this goal, by how we want to live. And you'll notice that this doesn't say the goal of Dandy Ram Farm is to grow flowers, or the goal of Dandy Ram Farm is to grow sheep, which is what it actually started as, was a sheep farm. So really creating a holistic goal, creating a statement for yourself that outlines why you're engaged in this, and allowing that to be the true thing that stays with you as your business evolves, because there's a lot of decisions that you're going to have to make pretty early on in your business about what you're doing, where you're doing it, how you're selling your products. And if you have a really strong why and a goal and a vision, that will hopefully be your like North Star and your guiding light through the decision fatigue and the overwhelm that can sometimes happen in starting a farm. So there are a lot of ways that we achieve our goal, and those are the more detailed things that happen. These are a few examples, and these are, things that we publicly share so our customers know this about our farm. But our goal is to bring joy and just and sustainable relationship to the land. Some ways that we do this is we grow in a low-till manner. We really embrace the seasonality of our work. We grow flowers in the season, and then we also turn to evergreen wreath and evergreen products in the fall. As a queer and trans farmer, it's really important to me from the beginning that we had shared community. So we share land with other queer growers here, and that is in line with my justice values as a grower. So these are a few examples. You'll also notice at the bottom end here, which is not deprioritized, but just on this list, is that there's stuff about finances. Like in order for me to keep farming for a long time, I need to do so in a way that I'm taking care of my body, but I'm also taking care of my finances. And so that includes like doing the bookkeeping I need to do the cash flow management so I can be financially viable, and looking at my enterprises and saying, okay, how am I going to sell this? What is the profit margin on it? And really understanding those numbers. Um, and currently, right now, it involves having an off-farm job because healthcare is a large expense, and I also enjoy my off-farm work, which is important. But that is kind of all part of the financial picture. So this goal it manifests in our to-dos and what we are actually doing on our farm. So your vision for your farm, there's a lot of different choices that may influence it. These are just a few examples. Your relationship to money can be a very debilitating one right at the beginning, because oftentimes starting a farm comes with a lot of investments of tools. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But also just like your goals in general, your values about land access and things like that. So when people go to start a farm, the number one people thing that somebody thinks about is money. How do I get it? Where is it? I don't have any and I want a farm. What do I do? And this is another slow down moment to take stock of what we actually have access to. When we're interested in starting a business, we immediately go to a deficit framing of what we don't have and what we need. And the eight forms of capital asks us to think a little bit more expansively about what we have access to, because we are all coming to this point of wanting to start a farm and wanting to start growing with experience, with connections, and maybe with a lot of passion that informs our why. So I'm going to go through these eight forms of capital, and then we'll talk a little bit more about each one and some examples. So our intellectual capital is the ideas. What have you read? What are you listening to? What podcasts are you really geeking out about? And what are you learning from those spaces? Um, our spiritual capital and our intentions. One of the things that came up, it sounds like in a group, was like everyone being really values driven about like wanting to give back to the earth, and that might be a spiritual connection for people. Social capital. This might be a little bit more familiar for people of thinking about who is around you. What connections do you have in Maine agriculture and agriculture in general outside of the state that will help your farm get off the ground? Material capital, so your shovels, your wheelbarrows, any tools that you have. Um, I would say that my number one most helpful tool is my computer, because that's where I do all my financial management and my spreadsheets. So non-living physical objects. Financial capital is the one that people I think often jump to. Like I said, that's your money. Living capital, so the soil that you're working with, the water around you that's going to irrigate your plants, the animals, whether that's deer to keep out or chickens to keep in a fence, and the plants that you might be growing already. Cultural capital is maybe the shared experience. So if you have a community that is really important to you, what is a shared experience amongst everybody in that space that you're with? And experiential capital and your know-how. I know I was a farm worker for about 7 years before I started my current farm. And I learned a lot of different things that then I got to apply to my farm. So, what is your growing experience? Maybe you're a gardener and you've witnessed plants through many years of gardening and you're starting to scale up into a commercial operation. You know a lot about growing, and don't underestimate what you know in that space. So these are some examples of what these eight forms of capital look like when I started our farm. So I started Dandy Ram in 2019, and we were leasing land for 4 years before we got long-term land security in 2021. So this was at the very beginning of my farm business. What were these eight forms of capital looking like? You can see here just that breaking out the eight forms, like the intellectual was, I did have some organized education specifically on food systems work. I have strong justice values and work around organic farming. At that point, I had been a farm worker for a long time in the Maine farming community and was pretty connected there. I also have a really supportive family, and a friend group in the town at which I was leasing. And this picture below, I had a truck. So that was a material that I used. I had a truck and I borrowed all of the other tools that I needed, except for I think I had like a pitchfork from when I was doing livestock. And I had some books. So that was some material capital. Financial, I had about $5,000 that I put into starting my farm, which got my seeds. It got this really busted up caterpillar tunnel that you can see in the back of this picture, from Facebook Marketplace. I got some irrigation. So I did have savings. And then I had an off-farm job, which helped with the financial risk. So for me, I really identify with the people that are very risk averse, and that was one of the reasons why I kept an off-farm job. My living capital was I was leasing a quarter acre of land at the very first year. And for me, my farm has always been a part of my queer identity, and that was kind of like the cultural energy I was bringing towards the farm business. And again, I had a long, many years of farming, so I was able to bring that to my experience starting up a farm.
Before I get started on actual resources, it occurred to me I should say what Land for Good is or what we are. So we are a regional organization whose mission is to expand and secure farmland access, tenure, and transfer. So you may know me from a different role. I've been an ag service provider in Maine for about a decade, and so I've played roles in several organizations. This is my first regional origin organization. And that's important because it gives me more access to people with experience beyond Maine. And I think that that has been just such an asset that stronger than I expected it to be. So our website, Land for Good, is going to be a resource that I connect you with at the end. And we will definitely cover what Land for Good, kind of touch on what we do, but also we are about connectivity. So me having experience with cooperative extension, with DACF, with MOFGA, with Maine Farmland Trust, we also might be a good entry point to connect you to other resources in Maine. So as far as approaching your land search, we actually have a great tool that I'm going to show you a little bit later. But what it's important to know is just to reiterate what Bo says, what are your goals, your life goals, right? Beyond just, I want a farm. What type of farm? Where do you want to be? Maine is a humongous state. One of the clients I'm working with right now is 3 hours north of Bangor. And quite isolated. And that could be a plus or that could be a minus, just like Bo said. Where are you now? Are you working on a farm? Are you apprenticing? Do you not have any farm experience? These are some things to think about before coming to talk to us. Think about things that, like the financing, the timeline. Are you interested in owning or leasing? We're increasingly seeing farmers that want to collaboratively farm. So, what is your dream farm? Back to Bo, right? We have access in-house to help you determine once you know what farm you land that you land on, type of farm, talking you through what type of soil types are you going to need, looking at the soil maps, trying to understand if you're doing animals, will you need more acres than 2 or 3? Most probably, right? So we want to help you find the land that fits. And we also coordinate with Maine Farmland Trust, who run Maine Farm Link. And we also have another resource that's more regional. So think about housing. We help you think about water access. We help you think about soils, floods, things of that nature, so that you can consider that. And we do that together. Also, just how close do you want to be to community? If you're a dairy farmer and you're going to be in northern Maine, is that going to be en route for Stonyfield or I wanted to say Hidden Valley, but that's not right. Organic Valley. Um, and so those are all things that you want to consider. And we will help you work through that when you contact me. Okay, go ahead, Bo. Okay, so this is the tool that I find the most useful when you're beginning your process of trying to determine what farm access methods are we going to take? What is your goal? And it can be a short-term goal that is on step to a long-term goal, and we can help you build that plan. So, do you own now, right? Or are you considering owning together? Like I had said, joint ownership is something that we're seeing, or joint LLCs we're seeing also. Future ownership. Are you trying to lease to own? Are you hoping to be an apprentice to somebody that will leave their farm to you or that you'll buy eventually? Maybe you're not interested in owning it all. And we are seeing an increase in that where that may not be people's mission to own land, or some may not even believe in owning land at all. So this tool is right on our website, this decision-making tool, and can help you in your business planning as well, just to be thinking more through what are my short-term goals and what are my long-term goals. We can help you create this plan. So this was part of what I was just doing today with a farm. And because I focus a lot on farm transfer myself, we are also a resource for, we may be working with a senior generation farmer, and we may be able to give you some insight if you're planning on leasing on what the senior farms are expecting or thinking about, and vice versa. We can help you build relationships with other service providers, as I mentioned. Your entry point may be Bo, who may recommend you talk to me. It may be me. And then once you get to a certain point, I'll have you connect with CEI or MFT. So that's one of the things that we actually can help you with, and I think are critically important. Financing options are something that we know quite a bit about, and we can help you think through whether or not you're ready to lease versus buy at whatever stage you're at. We had a farm recently that reached out, farmers, young farmers, that reached out to a 90-year-old that they had looked up on the tax records, had owned quite a bit of land in the Brunswick area. And I said, if the woman contacted you, how much are you hoping to pay? And they hadn't really thought that through. And so working through some of those things so that when that opportunity does come to lease or own, you're ready. You know what you need. We do talk to you, probably me, and we have another field agent focus a little bit on business planning more because that is our background, but we're going to lean heavily on Bo in this case and happy to work with him. Um, what I see a lot is people who are interested in buying land or leasing some of their land, talking with us about what to expect and how to build those leases. So that's more of what we're working with currently. So finding farmland, where to start? I'm a good place to start, and MFD is a good place to start. Um, Other people do like I said, just reach out to landowners, especially if you are part of a community already and you know that there are people that have excess land that they're not using or are interested in collaboratively farming. Contact those landowners. This is a grassroots strategy. Talk to us about how you may want to approach and what you're thinking about that. We have our main farm trust, main farmland trust, land trust, where you can be a farm seeker, apply on their website and be connected that way. We also have smaller land trusts, like the Brunswick Topsom Land Trust, for example, that have protected land. It is important to try to understand what type of land trust they are and what their goals are, because not all land trusts are focused on farming um, as their kind of mission-driven work. And like I mentioned, community networking. So for online, if you just want to see what types of land are available for owning for purchase or lease, you can use Main Farm Link, which is very great. I don't know if any of you know, but Hannah Tierney is representing that now, and she is fantastic. And the New England Farmland Finder is I will be honest, a little bit more out of date and focuses on the entire region, but can give you a sense of what types of farms exist and what the price points are. There are some others mentioned, just like how anyone is looking for rentals or property for sale, Craigslist, Zillow, all of the things. Um, but I just want to reiterate that we can help. So if you connect with us, it's a good place to start because we can help determine what avenue, what path might be next. And we also may have farmers, because we work with landowners directly, we may have landowners that are in kind of flux trying to determine whether or not they want to lease their land, and you may be a good fit for them. So I encourage you to reach out to us as a good place to start. Okay, and that's it for me. It was like super fast. But I just want to reiterate that I'll pop my email in the chat and I'm going to stay for Q&A. And I really encourage people to work collaboratively. I have already worked with Bo a little bit and I work with MFT and others. So feel free to reach out to me. And even if I'm not the best fit for what the stage that you're at, I will happily direct you.
Thanks so much, Sylvie. And thanks, Joanna, for putting those links into the chat. We are going to follow up to everybody that registered for the workshop with a lot of the hyperlinks for the resources that we're going to mention and that Sylvie just mentioned. I can say personally, Land for Good has saved my butt so many times. when I was a beginning farmer, when I was like 21, I had a lease situation get really nasty in August, and they helped me write a lease because I had a handshake agreement. And that was incredibly helpful. So they can help you like look over leases and write a lease and figure out if it's a good situation to be in as a beginning farmer. Um, and then when I was starting Dandy Ram, I was leasing in, I said 3 to 4 different places every year. So land was one of my biggest barriers. And I actually ended up finding our farm on Zillow. But before that, Land for Good helped me really refine like my search criteria about like, oh, I really didn't need 30 acres if I was growing really intensively on 1 acre. And that is what we grow now, is we grow 1 acre of flowers even though we have a 17-acre parcel. So, just like a strong plug for helping people guide you through those land search criterias, and figuring out leasing. Um, when we get into this umbrella of Maine farming resources, which are on the screen right now, it can feel really overwhelming. So, people like Sylvie and like myself, who are service providers, are here to help you really navigate what is going to be the most helpful for you right now. So instead of throwing everything at you, our goal is to talk with you and understand what is your biggest barrier right now and giving you recommendations about that situation to kind of help guide you through these various resources. This is kind of how I think about them in different buckets about like land access, financial planning and support, education around general farm work, and also like governmental programs. And there are like grants that pop up here and there with our current administration change. Those are becoming fewer. But I am going to talk a little bit through these different buckets to, yeah, just familiarize you to what is out there. And what I will also say is there are a lot of acronyms, and it can sometimes feel like alphabet soup. So don't be afraid to ask like, okay, what is NRCS? What does that actually stand for? Because it can feel, again, quite overwhelming. So as Sylvie shared, Land for Good is an incredible contact for if land is your biggest barrier right now and you're needing support in finding and connecting with land. Maine FarmLink is a listing resource that is organized through Maine Farmland Trust. And that is also a resource to you as well to see what's available. I also, when I was in my land search, created a profile for myself as a land seeker on Maine FarmLink, and people contacted me and said, "Hey, we have this land available. It sounds like it might be a good fit for you." So that helped with a few leads. Financial planning and support. We actually have somebody from CEI here, so I want to encourage you, Michelle, to unmute and introduce yourself and give a little bit of an elevator pitch about CEI if you're still here with us.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Bo, and thanks for the great information. I am a relatively new business advisor with CEI, so this is super helpful for me too. And I think, to your point, there are a lot of resources in the ecosystem to support farmers, but knowing how they're all connected and who to talk to about what is sometimes challenging. So this is really helpful. And so CEI is Coastal Enterprises Inc. We are a CDFI, which is a community development financial institution, which means that, we were founded basically to help support folks who don't traditionally have access to capital, be able to start businesses, and support their entrepreneurship. And so we do that through no cost business advising, which is, one-on-one and completely confidential. And we work with a lot of farms and food producers, getting a sense of what they're looking to do, helping them write that business plan, put financial projections together. And we'll reach out to many of, folks like Bo and Sylvie, to, once those needs are identified, to really get them in touch with the folks that will help them with those immediate next steps. And we work with entrepreneurs and small businesses at every stage of the life cycle. So exploring, the very beginning of being interested in farming, all the way through maybe like putting together that plan, securing financing, and hiring your first employees, and then maybe all the way through when you're thinking about that transition and putting you and folks in touch with folks like Sylvia and others who can help with that succession planning as well. So we don't just work in food and ag, we work across a lot of other industries. But yeah, so that's a little bit about, but I would say the biggest things um, that I'm involved in are supporting businesses as an advisor and then working with our lending team for folks who are in the food and ag space trying to secure funding for their enterprises.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Michelle. Yeah, so CEI really is in that space of financial planning and support. Some other players that are in that area is Maine Small Business Development Centers and SCORE Maine can also provide business advisors. And then the USDA has the Farm Service Agency. And this is through the government. And if you're starting a farm, I just want to encourage you to go register with the Farm Service Agency. So there is a office in each county that you can go to, and you say, okay, I'm starting a farm. And by getting what's called a farm number with them, you then can start working other government programs that are available, including the Natural Resource Conservation Service, who has many programs to support farmers in conservation initiatives. One of the most popular ones that people might be really familiar with that the NRCS operates is a program that supports farmers in um, purchasing high tunnels, so getting greenhouses, but also things like cover cropping, creating drought management plans and irrigation plans, which is incredibly important right now with climate instability and climate change. So that is some of the government programs. We also have the state programs through Department of Agriculture, Conservation and Forestry, which is often referred to as DACF. And they have great resources in the state. For myself, a good program that I took advantage of is Farms for the Future, which is helps with business planning and accessing a grant and a low interest loan, which was instrumental in me being able to build a barn. So programs like this are out here. And it's really roles of like myself and Sylvie to meet with you and kind of figure out, okay, what are your goals? What might be the best fit for you. So we just want to reiterate that you're not alone in navigating all of these different resources. As far as education abound, the University of Maine Cooperative Extension and MOFGA, which is who I work for, the Maine Organic Farmers and Gardeners Association, there are many workshops that are happening quite regularly and business planning courses that happen. So I'm going to share a little bit more about what the programs for beginning farmer support look like at MOFGA. Um, Danielle says, can you get a farm number without access to land with the Farm Service Agency? So oftentimes land tenure might change when you are starting a farm if you're leasing in different plots. So yes, please go still talk to the Farm Service Agency. If you are shifting counties, say you're leasing in one location and then you purchase a farm somewhere else in a different county, you will need to, make new contact with that Farm Service Agency office, but you can still work with them. And I believe the loan rate is around 5% right now for Farm Service Agency. So you can access loans through the FSA to support you in purchasing land. What I will say there around land access is oftentimes the loan process is much slower than how fast our real estate market works. So, if you're wanting to purchase a farm with a Farm Service Agency loan, working with a landowner, so a seller that is really supportive of your journey and is willing to go through, what might be a longer turnaround than a traditional real estate sale through, Redfin or Zillow or using a real estate agent that way. Um, I want to cover some of MOFGA's programming. For beginning farmers, where we like to start is one-on-one technical assistance. So I love doing this. This is the work that I do, is meeting with you on Zoom to talk about, where are you in your journey? What are barriers you're facing? And how can we get you the resources to help you grapple with them? Every year we have the Farmer to Farmer Conference. This year it is in February and it's hosted in Portland, Maine. And this is a 2-day conference with really deep diving into different areas of production, financial planning with farmers. And how we structure that is that somebody will come in to talk and lead a workshop, but really every farmer in that room is seen as an expert. Thanks, Sylvia. I'm excited that you're coming. And it's a really great conference. There's also just like a lot of time to talk with and learn from other farmers, from, farm workers to people that have been in the business for 30 years. Um, we have 2 programs that are kind of come after your first year of production. So what I would say is that, like, please engage with our staff and meet with us one-on-one so we can directly help you through that first year in production, and come to, MOFGA workshops and farm tours that happen in the summer to see what's happening on other farms. And then we get into our more structured programs after that. Farm Beginnings is our business planning course, and this is 8 weeks of whole farm planning. And we have people use their own records in order to build your business plan around that. And you're in that course with about 20 other people building your business plan, but also connecting around like developing your holistic goal and marketing, honing in on that. And the Journey Person program is MOFGA's 2-year program. Applications are due in January every year. So January 31st this year, this coming winter. And this is for people that have been operating for at least 1 year, and includes things like mentorship, free access to all of MOFGA's events, discounts to places like Johnny's and Fedco, and includes you're required to take the business planning course as part of the Journey Person program. One of the most common questions when I present these programs is like, why do I have to wait a year? Or like, I need help now. And what we notice is that if you have been a farm worker for a really long time, you might be well positioned to take advantage of these programs. But if you are newer to farming and wanting to start a farm, we really love to work with you on a one-on-one basis, directly addressing your questions before you do the programs, because that's when you get the most out of it, because you're ready to be in a peer space with other folks. So if you're interested in any of that, encourage you to check out our website, and I will also share links in our follow-up resources that we share over the email, and just generally want to meet with you and talk about your farm beginnings. Some other resources that MOFGA manages is, alongside Cooperative Extension, we have a growers group that has, I think, like 400 or 500 farmers on it around the state. This is the main veg and berry listserv. So if you are growing crops or interested in growing crops, that's a public forum that people say, hey, I am dealing with this aphid issue in my spinach this fall. What are people doing about it? And you can get responses directly from other growers. We put out a regular newsletter, which is every 2 weeks, which will let you know about different, if a grant is coming out, or if there is new drought resources that the USDA is putting out, to let you know about different resources. My coworker Caleb puts out the pest report, lets you know what pests you might be dealing with in a few weeks, giving you like a heads up about how to manage them. Of course, MOFGA does certify people as certified organic. So if you are interested in that, there's a program for that, which I'll talk about in a minute. The big asterisk that I will say there is that we work with growers regardless if they are going to be certified or not. So we work with growers that are, sustainably minded, that want to learn organic principles because that is what we teach and what we encourage people to implement. But if you're not interested in certification, that is not a barrier to working with MOFGA staff. We also have shared use equipment. So if you're close to Unity and you want to borrow a piece of equipment for your farm so you don't have to buy it, we also have that at MOFGA and Unity. Um, there's a program for people that are interested in being certified organic. So if you are starting your farm and you want mentorship as soon as possible, the Transition to Organic program can help you get mentorship. And I will share the link to that again in our follow-up notes. Okay, I think that's it for MOFGA resources. I hope people are still with us. Sylvia, I want to hand this over to you to reiterate what resources exist for Land for Good that people could take advantage of.
Yep, just to reiterate Bo's point, we do, and I'll talk about it at the end, leasing is one of the things that we're seeing most commonly now. But our website is incredible. Even before I worked for Land for Good, I would send people there who are land seekers or considering farm transfer because their online tools, much of people's questions like get answered there. Um, Worksheets, there's courses, there's examples, case studies, and if you want beyond that, you'd fill out our farm seeker form and you are most likely going to get connected to me if you are in Maine. And once that happens, you're likely going to work with us one-on-one. And beyond our main team, we have a regional team. So if it's leasing, we will likely review your lease as a team, and then maybe someone in Massachusetts will say, what is this? What about this red flag? We've seen this happen with wealthy landowners that are doing this or this. And we also work with landowners to try to encourage them to lease to beginning farmers. So we have that relationship there too, and we can see sort of both sides. Like a farmer may expect one thing. We try to also prep the landowners for what it's like to work with the farm before they make farm land available. So we do the one-on-one assistance. This pretty much says it, land search, lease review, farm succession, and we also work with landowners to help make their land accessible. We are finding more people that come in as farm seekers want to reserve a portion of that land to also share it. So that's good for both sides. And so that pretty much sums it up. But like I said, feel free to reach out to me. And if I can't help you, we'll find someone who can.
Now that we've gone through many of the resources and strategies available to you as a beginning farmer interested in starting a business here in Maine, we want to encourage you to take a few minutes to reflect on what's been shared and write down a few steps that you specifically are ready to take next. Starting a farm can be an overwhelming process with a lot of different things on the to-do list. So we want to help you identify the first 3 to 5 things that you're going to do this week in order to put your plan into action. As a post-work suggestion and in preparation for the second session in the series, I want to encourage you also to check out the next year's farm plan workshop. So this is similar to the worksheet on your ideal farm, but specifically focusing on what is your farm going to look like this year or next year. And then check out session 2 and session 3. Here are our contact information again, and they're in the web page as well. And we'll see you in the next session.